a lot of time over the past, 36 hours talking about knowing your story, how to use it to grow your business. We talked about writing a media pitch, and you're going to hear exactly how to approach media in about 35 minutes or so. So we've talked a little bit about self-limiting beliefs and how to take care of yourself so that your business grows. Kind of an all-in-one, quick hit for business growth. So there's one little thing that we haven't touched on. And we're only going to touch on it a little bit, Donna and I today, but it's about the concept of value, which leads into pricing. And it's not about the numbers. It's about so much more than that. And we're just going to give you something to think about as we close out our day, and then we'll have some fun with our media friends. So I know Donna wants to open.
Well, yeah, I just have kind of a kooky example of when it hit me about how people do not understand their own value. And I have a very good girlfriend who is single, and she's on Match.com. So we have a lot of fun when she's like, come on over, we're going to go and look at the people on Match. So we'll go through everybody that Match has suggested are perfect for her, and I'm reading the descriptions, and I'm like, oh, he doesn't get his value. Like, he doesn't get his value. Like, time and time again, there are these misses of they don't understand their value as a human being. So it's never going to come off as, hey, let's go out and have coffee, because that person doesn't understand their value. So you elevate that into our businesses, and when we don't understand our value, our clients will not understand our value. Right, Lynn?
Absolutely.
So, and the value can go a few ways. We have the value that we perceive our product is worth. We have the value of what we think we are worth as someone who is either delivering that product or communicating the product. Then there's the value that your clients will perceive it. So what is this worth to me? And think about this. What is the value of them not having it? How much is it costing your clients to not have what you have to share with them? That's a really big piece.
Well, it's huge, and you should actually write that down. You should write down, what does somebody get from working with you? And it's not just the hour you spend with them or the product that they take home or whatever it is. What is the ongoing value? And sit with it. Think about it a little bit. Because it's not about that 1 hour or one program or one product at all. In fact, how do you even come up with a price? Anybody want to throw out some ideas about how you come up with a price? Jody?
So how I originally started pricing mine was, if I'm my ideal client, because I was the target market, was originally women ages 25 to 55, 25 to 55. How much would I be willing to spend? $1,000. And I kept saying until I would say yes to what I was offering.
So you put yourself in their shoes.
I put myself in their shoes. If I would be willing to spend this, and I would say yes today with it,
okay, so
that's how I started.
So let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a quick spender, like you see it, you buy it, no question, or do you think things over, or are you cutting coupons and buying Groupons?
I do all of that.
Okay. And what makes the difference between just deciding this is a value and jumping in, or dragging your feet and taking 3 weeks to make a purchase? What's the difference?
On what the immediate benefit will be. What's my return on investment? Like, how quickly will I get that back? And so I had that in my proposition.
Okay.
So for me, it was like, okay, so to start with, when I first started doing it, I started at $97, and now it's up to $150, and my target is in with the next 2 years, it'll go to $300.
Okay, and what is the value of what you offer?
What is the value of what I offer?
Just quickly.
In a 3-hour workshop that I do, that one piece
The
of
value of working with you.
40% increase in your business revenues within 6 months.
Hold on. 40% increase in business revenues within 6 months. Is $97 appropriate for that? Hold on. Is $150 appropriate for that?
For a 1-hour consultation for that, yeah.
Is $150 40% increase in revenues in 6 months? Who says that's worth $3,500? 40% increase in revenues. 5,000? 10,000? 40% increase in revenues. I'm just saying. Just saying, right? Okay.
I have a little option when we're talking about what it is we charge. Let's look at a little formula. For those of you that are providing, like Jody, a service-based, and right now you're still bordering trading time for dollars, which is okay, and I'm so glad you increased substantially. If you look at a formula of how much do you want to work, so say you take 5 days a week and you want to work and you have clients, and there's 3 ways that you're going to work with your clients. possibly. One might be on the phone. The other might be email access. And the other, you're just thinking about your clients. So let's say you want to work Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., one-on-one on the phone. Then you want to have your email access spread out throughout the day. You might be the person that likes to sit on the couch with your family and you're emailing your clients. Then you might be thinking about your clients all the time. So you have 9 to 10, 11, 12, 3 hours that you're willing to work times 5. That's 15 hours. Now, say you schedule coaching that is 30-minute sessions. You might want to buffer that to 45. So if you have that client, right, that has a thing and you need more time, you do that. So that you're going to do a little math there of how many 45 sessions can you fit in 5 days a week at 3 hours each day. So you start to look at that, and then you have to be real and look at your expenses of what it is to live. What are your costs? What are your expenses? You go back, and that's how you start to figure out what am I going to charge my clients? If you are confident and really clear, if you provide clarity to your clients, you are worth a lot of money. But that has to come from understanding your value.
So there's something that I wanted to just share with you guys. You know, you met Tim earlier, who's the CEO and Executive Director of Habitat for Humanity of Oakland County. So we're planning this big event in 2014, Women Build. It's women building a house for a woman homeowner. It's a really exciting effort. And they need to do a lot of fundraisers to raise probably a couple $100,000 to build this house. And Women Build is a national thing, so it's at Habitats all over the country. And we were doing our research and we were getting our committee together, and we were talking with some other affiliates who did a fundraiser for Women Build. And they planned it, and they said that the tickets were $200 a person. And for that local community, they thought that was a pretty steep price and yet still accessible. They couldn't sell any tickets. So they raised the price to $500 a ticket, and they sold out. Why? The value. Well, it's value, and the perception was it was that much more valuable, it was that much more exclusive, it was that much more special. So Habitat believed in itself more, like this is a worthwhile project. And that's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. But if it's for you and it's meaningful to you, buy in. And they sold out. So I think before you ever set your prices, it's not about what do I want to earn or what do I think the market will bear. What do I think the competition is doing? You certainly don't want to outprice yourself, and you certainly don't want to underprice yourself. So there is a reasonable range depending on what you're doing. But as we talked about yesterday, only you can do what you do. So even though you have competition in whatever industry you're in, only you can do it the way that you do it. And that's unique. It's not very unique, Randy Lou. And it's special. And so your pricing needs to reflect you, which comes from the confidence that Donna mentioned. Carol, did you have a question?
Well, in my industry, I may deliver that extra special personal care. However, historically, the first thing the customers want to be, they go price shopping, and if I'm not competitive, even with that personal care, they will leave. So how do you address that?
I'm so glad you asked that, because everybody wants to know that, right? And so whenever you're discounting and you're competing on price, and you read this with any marketing expert out there, a race to be the cheapest is a race to the bottom. It's just a race to the bottom. So for the person who's just going to purchase office supplies based on the price and they want the cheapest, best deal, they're not looking for relationship. They're not looking for customer care. They're just looking to get a deal because it makes them feel better, although that's fleeting, so they keep trying to feel better and they keep trying to find the deals, and it never really works. But it's a downward spiral that you don't want to be part of. It's not an energy to be part of.
Yeah, I'll add on to that just a little bit. And I know Catherine will get this too. If you have a business, if you can look at the value of your client down the road, so say over a 2 to 3 year period. So for instance, when I had a yoga studio, I knew that if someone came in for a free week of yoga, so the potentiality might be that they purchase 60 days for $100. And if they're really liking it, they're going to go on to an auto pay in over a year's time, maybe pay $1,200, whatever it is for yoga. Then what happens to that client, they might really love what's happening and go into a retreat or a teacher training. So what's the value of someone you bring in over a period of time? What's their business look like? Like, how much can you see that they're really going to stay with you and grow with you? Because sometimes we miss that. We're so looking immediately that we don't see the end run.
With all of that. But with large companies, you're generally built into a contract, and so you're limited. I mean, there is some out of the contract investments, and that's where you will generally increase your profits. Smaller sized businesses may come to you with routine things, but I'm going to go out and buy a printer, for example, today. They'll shop that and find out, well, I can get it on the internet, or I can go here and get it for this price, but even though I may deliver to them the rest of the time because I can't match that price at that particular instance, they won't purchase from me.
Well,
And that's
also-
that's over. Even though I've given them that
Yep.
personal, I've got that relationship with them, you know, and I have to look at my cost of delivery and gas and et cetera. And so it's just it's something that yes, you have to set a profit margin. You got to know where you are. But I always struggle with that extra service that we give, that personal service, knowing us, the relationship, and responding. It's not as easy to build it in to the price
Right.
as some people make it out to be.
And I don't know only
Yeah.
you know the answer according to your business. Is it worth it to say, no problem, I'll meet your price and it'll be there tomorrow? Because that is a client. Like, I don't know, but I think the assessment of who this client is and what they're going to bring to you in the future is really important for those moments where you say to them, oh, okay, sure, you know what, I'm going to, and you concede it a little bit, like where, you know, I'll take it at my time, I'm going to get it to you, and all of a sudden they're like, I feel a little bit bad, but she's going to do it. So there's ways to do those things, but you have to really assess.
Well, it's true. And you also can make exceptions and have special situations because you're working with that particular relationship. And so over time, maybe you're the cheapest on this, but you're not on that, and it works out. And that long view is really important. I wanted to mention a quick thing here. Anybody in here ever have like issues with money? Like, you know, insecurities, fears, oh my God, I don't have enough, when is, this bill's due, whatever it is. So we've all been there, and we might all be there again. It comes and it goes. And it's helpful for me to remember that money comes and money goes, and money itself is never actually the barrier. It's a perceived barrier that we erect. It's not really a barrier because it all depends. And in the flow of your life, you're going to have more, you're going to have less. It's what you do with it and how you look at it. You know, my sister, in her first home, it was about, 1,200 square feet, a little cute bungalow. And it was just my sister and brother-in-law, and so it was quite spacious. And next door to them was an older couple. They were empty nesters, and they had raised 5 kids in the home, which was the same size as my sister's home. And they were perfectly happy. And, their kids were great. They were all successful and productive and, good people. And so they had a teeny tiny house that some people would say, how could you have a family of 7 in this house? And they didn't see it as a barrier. There's a book called Thou Shalt Not Want that I read years and years ago when I was more religious, because I wanted to understand this perspective of God will provide. What does that mean? Like, I'm just supposed to hands off and it's all going to be okay? And the big lesson that I took out of this book, which was like maybe 90 pages, it was tiny, was that there's an order in the universe and there's a destiny for each and every one of us that's already laid out. But we're a partner in that, and we have to do exactly what we need to do in the work that we do. So if you're in an industry where the norm is 40 hours a week, you can't sit back and say, I'm going to put in 20 hours because I'm taken care of. The universe has got my back. But also, you can't expect to work 60 hours and really surpass what is the norm, because the expected and what is appropriate is 40 hours. So do your part. Do the work, and the outcome will be there. There's no shortcut.
Back to
right?
what we were saying.
There was a
or what
question.
you had
Somebody had a
said,
question.
about prices, I guess lower prices and whatnot. But we have, with our studio written, we have a Groupon out there. Yeah. The Groupon, it makes me really upset. But but I understand his idea behind the Groupon because it's really what he wants to spread the word of mouth and get people in to get to know us. So I get that and I understand it, but it's so much time, and so many people constantly purchasing this Groupon because it is an obnoxious, like, almost free, basically, deal. And this is creating for us almost chaos. Yeah, and then on top of that, you were talking about your the equation and your how many hours and whatnot. So on top of all these Groupons, which we keep on our weekday hours because on the weekends we have events, weddings, parties, bar mitzvahs, creating, and then the edits for all of these things after that. So it's creating a 40-hour work week on top of late night weekends, creating like 75-hour work week, and I don't like it.
Having
Breathe. We'll
Yes.
have Catherine play the mantra again, okay?
my experience with Groupon is this is a crazy, crazy thing that will probably go away in some point in time. But what needs to be done when you use a Groupon is you have to manage it. There needs to be a cap, and the intention has to be so strong and deep that the people you bring in, even at this reduced price, will at some point stay with you and remember that overall value per client that comes in the door. Because we did it at my yoga studio, and everybody was nuts. But you know what? We have some people that hung in there and stayed and loved it. So it ended up being a great thing. But you have to balance it, you have to cap it, and you also have to make your current clients feel okay. So there needs to be a little thing for them too. And you got to staff and you got to be prepared because it's a lot.
So the thing is that some people use Groupon as a form of advertising because then you're seen by a whole population that might not see you otherwise. So if that's your intention and that's your tactic, then you understand it for what it is, and you do put a limit on it and a period of time limit as well as a number limit. But then once they come in that door, because the reality is that I don't know the percentages, but a lot of people who buy Groupons never actually use them. So that's, which is great because then it weeds out some people who really aren't serious. So when the people actually come through the door, then it's all you. Then it's all up to you and your relationship building. And so once they're in the door, it's what are you going to do with it? You know, they might have had in mind, I'm just getting the Groupon because I'm shopping the best deal. But there's a reason that they're coming to your studio or to your business or whatever you're doing. They're looking for connection. They're looking to matter. And if you can provide that, then they may actually stay.
Yeah, which we obviously think of because we treat that, we act like it's all the same.
Sure. I bet you do. Yeah.
I wanted to ask Donna to talk about, so I hate sales, okay? It's up there, it's the title. She loves sales, she's really, really good at it because she looks at it differently and she's coaching me so that I'm not hating it anymore. But that what I've learned from Donna, so I'm gonna hand it over to you in a second, is that sales is not about manipulating someone and getting their money so that you can pad your pockets. It's about inspiring someone to invest in themselves. And that goes back to what we talked about yesterday, that if what you're offering truly will benefit people, then it's a mutually beneficial transaction, and you have to keep that in mind. If it's all for you, then it's not a fit. So when you look at sales from that perspective...
Yeah, so couple of questions here. Who needs to ask for money in their businesses? Raise your hand. Good. Who does not like asking for money? Okay, I love asking for money. Visa or MasterCard? I'll take check, cash too. But here's why. Because when I approach a sale, first of all, I would never ever sell for somebody else or something that I have that I absolutely do not believe in. It's just very deep for me. Because we all have gifts, talents, and skills that will serve someone else and transform their lives. And if you don't believe that, you're not believing in the value of what you have and what you do. So that's the first piece of value that's very strong. The other thing to look at sales is this is a huge opportunity for your own personal growth. Why? Because when we get to that sales conversation, I guarantee there's a hit that goes back to a something that we are extremely uncomfortable with about ourselves, or something, whether it's when we were a kid or this or that, it's a low self-esteem. That, when you address what that is, you break through. And sales is simply an inspiring conversation and helping people to make a decision. So if you look at it like, it's okay if you don't buy from me, I want to help you get to a yes or a no. You've helped someone make a decision. And I'm sure all of you know, do you know how hard that is for people to make a decision? Have you been on those, okay, well, I'll call you in a week? They're not calling you in a week. They just can't make a decision. So if you're there like, look, if it's not me, that's cool. I just really want to help you make a decision. They feel awesome if that decision is yes or if it's no. So this is, if you look at sales as being a leader and sales as helping people to make a decision, it's really exciting because there's an objectivity. It's like, cool, if what I have isn't for you, fine, but I really want to help you get to where you want to go.
So it's interesting, and I would encourage you guys to do this after today. Take a look at your whole money story. You know, what's tied up in that? What's the history? How far back does it go? So I grew up with parents who wanted to give me everything because my dad really had nothing when he was a kid. He didn't even step foot onto an airplane until he was 18. And in college, when all of his friends were in a fraternity, he was washing dishes in the fraternity, okay? So when my brother was president of his fraternity, my dad was over the moon, you know? He felt that he had succeeded. We went on nice vacations. We did all these great things. And when I grew up and I wanted to be independent, my dad, my mom, they still wanted to pay for things, but then it was on their terms. You know how you are when you're a teenager and you sort of rebel and everything. So for me, if I was responsible for all of these items, then I was in control, right? And I remember I was 25 years old, 25. I was living in Washington, D.C., and my dad was paying my car insurance. And so he would offer me opinions about things that I did in my life. And I was not a wild person, so it wasn't that bad. But it was like, come on already, I'm 25, you know? And so I said, you know what, Dad? Thank you so much. I'll pay for the car insurance. I'm working, I'm a journalist, I'm cool. And he did not want me to pay for that car insurance, which was very sweet. And Donna knows my dad, and he was very, you know, he's very sweet. We have lunch every week. And he's my best business advisor. But it was a control thing. It was a power and control thing. And when I realized that, both him and me, we could then have a good conversation about it. But you have to look at what's behind it. You know, what's about letting go of that bill, which is not a cheap bill. You know, Dad, I'll take it over. It's cool. You know.
And you know, it just comes back to, again, what is it that you have that you will share with somebody? What's the value of that, and what's the cost if they don't have it? That's a big deal. I mean, I was talking to Lisa and Frank, and they have an amazing tool to help marriages stay together. All you have to say is, gee, how much is a divorce these days?
Lisa, where are you?
Do you think that maybe they're going to invest a little bit or a lot of money to go, you know what, maybe this could actually work out? That's a big deal.
You can save someone's marriage.
Mm-hmm. You can save someone's business, someone's mindset. It's huge. And I want to reflect back to what Catherine said earlier. It's like a spiritual commerce, you know. Money flows. It doesn't go away. It's an energy. I worked with this amazing energy coach just a few weeks ago, and she's like, so Donna, where are you tithing? And I was like, oh, I used to give here, and I used to give there, but since I sold my studio, I kind of feel like I don't have any money. And she's like, what? So she immediately put me on the schedule of every week, I give like $40 to children in Syria, whatever, because that speaks to my heart. Money has to go out to heal those places so that it starts to come back in. And I had a beautiful story. We were talking about teachers earlier. A really good friend of mine, and he's an entrepreneur, and he was standing in line at a bookstore, and he saw a teacher in line purchasing all of these things. He's like, wait a minute, you're doing this? This is for your class? And he just ran up and he paid for all those materials, and he made a dedication that he would give to, whether it was his child's classroom, someone else's, he would pay around Christmas for the teacher supplies. And all of a sudden, the opportunities that he was hoping would come his way started to come. So maybe it's foo-foo, maybe it's weird, but I believe in the vibration, so we have to give out in order to receive.
Well, that's really true. You know, I said earlier that I always have a pro bono client at all times, and if I don't, I have to get on the stick and do that. I try to do that a lot. I try to sort of walk the walk. When I turned 40 a couple of years ago, and it felt like a really big number, and I don't know why. What? I thought you were 35. I'm 42. But when I was 39, approaching 40, and I thought, I never cared about age before, and I was like, wow, I better make sure my life is making a difference because, you know, it's make it or break it. I mean, I'm at the halfway mark, aren't I? And, you know, so I had this whole, midlife crisis. And I had a friend who went on all these great vacations the year she turned 40. It was like the year of herself, and she was indulging herself, and that was great. I said, that's a really cool idea. I'm going to turn it a little bit on its side. And I decided to take the year that I was 40 to do 40 things that make the world a better place. And so I sat down and I made lists of people and populations and causes that I wanted to benefit. And how could I go about doing that? So I made some donations, and I volunteered at some places. And then that was the year that Dan and I got married actually 2 weeks before I turned 40. And so I was already putting the wheels in motion. And, we said, listen, we have everything we need. We really do. We got married, each of us, once before. We registered back then. We now have all of that to merge together. So we don't need stuff. And why don't we pick a meaningful cause? And if people really feel like they need to give us a gift, they can give to that. And so we did Leukemia Lymphoma Society. And I figured this is going to be a piece of cake. Ask people to give for leukemia and lymphoma research, who's going to say no? And of course, there was a lesson for me because there were people that came out of the woodwork with big checks that I never would have thought would even remember me. And then there were people very close to me who didn't give anything, or who got mad at me because I didn't pick their favorite charity, or whatever it was. And I said, wow, you know what? It's really hard to raise money for a good cause. So now, whenever anybody asks me, I'm going to give, even if it's $5, because there's an energy about that. They're trying so hard to make a difference. Why would I stand in the way of that? So that energy is really important. And we're getting a little far afield from the issue of value and pricing, but that does factor into our money stories. And that factors into our business success or lack of success.
Just finally, the idea of those of us that invest in our businesses, trust me, if you invest a small amount, that's probably what you're going to do. I've been down this road. When you invest big, you start to work your butt off. You really do, and things change. And that's a great lesson for your clients and people too. Like, when we invest in a big way, we're going to get to work, and the change, the shift is really going to happen.
Yeah. Any last questions? We have 3 minutes, and then we'll make the switch to the panel. So any questions? There's a lot of stuff up here that you could jot down.
It's not so much a question, it's just sort of informational, but it's more social media directed. On your Facebook page, like how people wish you happy birthday, instead you can have people make donations to causes. Mm-hmm. So instead of having a waste, just that little thing, you can do that, and I've done that for a number of years. So.
Any questions about pricing or value or anything like that?
Is anybody going to raise their prices? You feel like you could raise your prices? If you're service providers, no
Hey,
coaches?
no, this is not the answer. We need another 45 minutes. Who's raising their prices? Who has? Thank you. Yeah. Seriously, guys,
You'll be surprised at how your people don't blink an eye. They're like, oh, okay.
And if they do, maybe it's no longer a fit. Maybe it doesn't serve the relationship anymore.